broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. This is The Gailey Show, also streaming on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@The Gailey Show. It is 33 minutes past the hour. I'm John Parker, Derek Bogosian. Joining me in the studio is our executive producer, Jim Pounds.
Good morning, John Parker. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, afternoon. Oof, it's Friday. The Oscars are on March 2nd, and there is nothing gayer than the Oscars, except for the acting categories, which should actually be renamed the heterosexual acting categories, but that is a story for another day. Today, we're going to look at two nominees, and I think we'll keep looking at nominees all the way up until the ceremony, because, again, what is gayer than the Oscars?
I would say maybe the Tony Awards, but that's...
Oh, yeah.
It's at least the second gayest award show.
Okay. All right. We'll also let that be a debate for the internet. Well, the two films that we're going to look at today are A Real Pain and Wicked. So let's start with A Real Pain. It is up for 2 Academy Awards, Original Screenplay and Best Supporting Actor for Kieran Culkin. You can currently watch it on Hulu or through Disney Plus if you have the Hulu add-on. What it's about: it is mismatched cousins reunite for a tour through Poland to honor their beloved grandmother, but their old tensions resurface against the backdrop of their family history. It was directed and written by Jesse Eisenberg. Okay, I guess you want to go first, Jim?
Well, I don't know. I didn't have high expectations of this, except I do remember thinking, that's a really odd pairing, which is what the story is. And half the interest was just watching that, watching the two of them who seem so different in their acting style and personality, watching them trying to, travel together. It sounded funny to me, I guess is what I was thinking. And then, of course, it's not that, or it's not ultimately about being funny and outrageous, although there's some of that too. But it was, it was touching. It was, it did make you step back and consider that people with common characteristics like that, or people who've never really stopped and thought about their whatever grandparents or history or heritage, are suddenly stopped by the weight of that or what somebody went through. We watch occasionally the show about people's genetics, on PBS, and about their histories and all that stuff. And it's
Finding Your Roots.
There's weight to that, you kind of makes you stop and think. And this movie did that for me. I thought it won at BAFTAs both for Kieran, but it also won for that screenplay of Jesse's. And I'm feeling like that's looking promising for an Oscar for both of those slots.
Well, I would say strike one for me for the film was there were no gays.
No gays anywhere in Poland.
I know, right? Bonus, though, for the movie is casting Jennifer Grey.
Yes.
She is part of one of the attendees on the tour. So when they get to Poland, they're part of a tour group that takes them around part of the country. So it had been a while since I had seen Jennifer Grey, because when I saw she came on screen, I was like, why do I know that person? And there you go. I would have actually really liked a larger role for her. She kind of plays this entitled mom who's having a estrangement with her child, and
right.
Yeah, there could have been more about that, but
Well, and the fellow who played the tour guide, who's one of my favorite actors, I didn't even recognize him. He was both attitudinally and physically completely subsumed within that role, and I didn't realize until the end when I saw his name in the credits. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I thought he did a good job, and I'm looking up his name. His name is Will Sharp.
Yes, who was in season 2 of The White Lotus.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's really magnificent.
And strike 2 for me about the film, as I was reflecting on it, was, haven't we seen this before? In terms of the nerdy guy paired with the outspoken cool kid who smokes dope and hitches rides on trains without paying for a ticket. And Kieran Culkin plays the outcast, who is an outcast mainly for refusing to abide by social conventions. And then the character sort of leans into their outcastness to say outrageous things, which are funny and that regular people won't say. which then ends up shining a light right on truths you'd rather not discuss. And it's an archetype, right? It goes back to the Fool and King Lear. It goes all the way back to like Greek theater. I think more recently for me, we see this with Alan Arkin in Little Miss Sunshine, Sterling K. Brown in American Fiction, Richard E. Grant in Can You Ever Forgive Me? It just sort of felt like we've seen these tropes before.
You just described every Michael Cera movie, I think.
Well,
in terms of the nerd and anybody with more confidence than he's got.
Yeah, I mean, it's the buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
Kieran's won everything on the awards circuit, so he'll win this too, because awards voters are lemmings. But also, as I was reflecting on it, sort of a strike three, even though I have more than that. Kieran Culkin should be in the best actor category.
Yes.
The film is so obviously his, from the opening shot to the closing shot. It's him. And it's his story, and so it's a character study of his character.
Right.
So it felt a little cynical to put him in the supporting actor. Like, oh, we bet he could win that one more so than best actor. So, but at the same time, I mean, bonus, who thought a Culkin would win an Oscar?
Well, and I appreciate that this is a small film. It's not off somebody else's intellectual property, which I'm sick to death of. It's an original story about. I agree the tropes are so well in place, but still, it's a new piece of property and a sort of mini or small drama, and I appreciated its scale, which was small and personal.
I agree. We don't have enough of those films, but
right.
Ultimately, what changed in the film? I guess the characters were able to talk to each other at the end and talk about a serious subject. I mean, Kieran's character had a suicide attempt, and that's why Jesse Eisenberg's character wasn't able, like there was this tension between them, and this distance between them. But I didn't know what the character arc was. Like it didn't feel like they changed as human beings by the end of the film. And that can be a choice. Like you don't have, the characters don't have to change by the end of the movie, by the end of the novel, etc. But if so, that needs to be grounded in something. We need to sort of understand the why of the choice.
They might just have more awareness of each other or appreciation for each other. But it was from the moment of, and I won't talk about what the reveal was of the thing that they were all there for, that was anticlimactic, and the movie never recovered from that. It always seemed like, oh, is that all that is? And I don't know if that's what you're saying, but that's the way it felt to me.
No, but I know what we're trying not to do like spoiler alerts here, but I think to kind of to your point, and this is maybe an American thing, but it didn't seem like visiting the concentration camp or their grandmother's home from which she had to escape and flee held any larger significance for them.
Yeah.
And I feel like given the world that we're in with these far-right parties ascending and MAGA in the US, that the film kind of ignored all of that, even with the casting of Kieran Culkin, who is a non-Jewish actor in a Jewish role. It just felt like a film we'd see in the Obama administration when it felt like, however misleading, that the country had turned a page.
Right.
And so it just, as two Jewish men going to Poland to visit the home of their grandmother, who was very important to them, and she, had to escape the Holocaust. So it just felt like there would be a larger significance. And I don't necessarily mean that should have been a political movie, or be didactic in any way, but it just felt like with everything that's going on right now, that these two men were not located within that sort of greater political moment. I think was weird. So my rating, I am going to say it's overrated, and I'm going to give it 2 out of 5 stars.
I'll give it 3 stars.
And I am hoping for an upset. Sorry, Kieran. I mean, I know you're going to win, but I am hoping for an upset. The next movie is Wicked.
Yay.
So adapted from the Tony Award-winning musical. It is about Elphaba, who we know as the Wicked Witch of the West, who is a misunderstood young woman because of her green skin, and Galinda, who is a popular girl. They both become friends at Shiz University in the Land of Oz. Galinda becomes Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, if you know the Wizard of Oz. And after an encounter with the wonderful Wizard of Oz, their friendship reaches a crossroads. It's directed by John M. Chu, starring Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Jeff Goldblum, and Michelle Yeoh. It has 10 Oscar nominations.
And Jonathan Bailey is in
And
there,
Jonathan Bailey. Oh my goodness. That was literally one of my positives for the movie that had Jonathan Bailey. And thank you for that. It has 10 Oscar nominations. Best Picture, Best Actress in a Leading Role for Cynthia Erivo, Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Ariana Grande, Best Visual Effects, Sound, Editing, Production Design, Original Score, Makeup and Hairstyling, and Costume Design. Jim, your thoughts?
Well, I saw this on Broadway, and I know the film, this is only half of the story, and I know this is different from the stage musical, obviously. I didn't love it on Broadway, and I feel like most people seem to, or gave off that impression, and I felt like, well, what did I miss? Why was all this machination not that interesting to me, except the lead performances I thought were great and things like that. So in this, I enjoyed the story much more for some reason. The cinema helped it, I think, not having it locked on the stage. And and I've had this disagreement with people over the song Popular, which I loathed in the movie. And it's a great song in the show. And I felt like they did a great job bringing all these musical pieces to life and making them better, let's say, than they were on the stage. But that one was a stinker to me. And I think it's because it was overdone, over choreographed, over deliberate, over fussy, and I always feel like it calls attention to itself when you do that, when you don't let an actor stand there and sing for half a bar.
It had this start, stop quality to it, and you just
really
kind of felt at some
clumsy.
point like, let Ariana sing.
And what it made me do is appreciate all of the other musical numbers that weren't like that. So it seemed like, did they do that one first? I don't know. For some reason, they figured it out, and I thought it was good. If you love musical theater, it was good, and I don't know that it was great. I love Jonathan. Bowen Yang, as I know you're going to say, was this kind of his stock character. But it was nice to see a few, and Cynthia's in the community too, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
So there's 3 of us, and that was nice to see. I feel like it's not a big enough story to turn into 2 movies, and I'm sort of hesitating to imagine going and sitting down again and going, oh, let's do this again. But that's what we've been given. I also did not care for Jeff Goldblum as the wizard, and I've always liked Jeff Goldblum, and I think he was really badly miscast. That's my opinion.
Yeah, a huge yes for Jonathan Bailey, and his choreography apparently was even more difficult. He was making it than it was very intricate, and I really appreciated that. And I felt like even though his character is in a relationship with Galinda and maybe with Elphaba, that he was also flirting with all the boys in the movie as well. So I just thought it was a different side of Jonathan Bailey than I had seen. I loved it. Yay. Bowen Yang was both wasted and typecast.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to see him in this role anymore.
Right.
Like, he has so much more dynamism rather. And yes, he's my nemesis, but he has a lot more to offer than just being the,
Yes.
I almost said a word I can't say on can I say benchy? Tired of being the benchy BFF to Galinda. So I thought that Ariana Grande was a delight, and get ready for it, was pitch perfect.
Wow.
I thought that she had the entire character down.
Yeah.
And I thought that, from the comedy of it to the dramatic weight of things, and I felt like there were some stereotypical acting choices that could have been made that she steered away from. Now, I don't know if that was her and or John Chu, the director, but she didn't. She steered clear from them. And I really appreciated that. And of course, watching Cynthia Erivo, about halfway through the movie, I felt, okay, it was going to be inevitable. Some might argue she was born to, at some point in her career, play Elphaba, whether that's on Broadway, the West End, or here in the film. I mean, she takes that role, she owns with it, she runs with it. It's fantastic. So we've got more to say, though, about Wicked. So we're going to take a quick break here. More on Wicked on The Gailey Show. here with our executive producer, Jim Pounds, talking about Wicked. We're talking about 2 films today that are up for Oscars, which are on March 2nd. So with Wicked, I hadn't seen the musical, so I didn't have anything to compare it to. And I did feel about 3/4 of the way through, why is it so long? And what are they going to do for part 2? And I felt like the genocide subplot was shoehorned in there. Now that about the animals losing their ability to talk and being carted off, that's not in the musical, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. So this just felt like, why is this being shoehorned in here? Maybe this is me being cynical. I would have rathered it stay a character study between the 2 witches and their friendship and their relationship.
Yeah.
And it felt like, oh boy, here we go. We're going to get some Marvel superhero team up to save the world all over again. And I was like, why does everything have to be, as the grandson and great-grandson of genocide survivors, I don't understand what's all of this, villains trying to end the world, erase an entire group of people. Like, this was a lovely musical without that. So I don't know why we needed to have it in there. But I, at the same time, was watching it and like, oh my gosh, like if I was still a teenager and saw this movie, like this would be my anthem. Like all the songs in there, like, oh yeah, for little teen gay boy. Like this film was so queer,
right?
And I loved it in that regard, particularly the actors who were there. And it's not there's a definite queer subtext to the film.
Yep.
An Elphaba's character journey. You can see the songs, like Little Mermaid songs, same thing of like, oh wow, this could absolutely be a queer person singing these lyrics.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Cynthia Erivo because they really don't give Oscars to out queer performers. So I feel like her campaign and Carla Sofia Gascon's campaign for Best Actress. Well, I mean, Carla took herself out of the running. I mean, that's.
I was going to say,
if she wins, people are going to burn down the Dolby Theater because she's just.
But that does open up a slot for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I think it's going to be Demi Moore as a sort of comeback Oscar, but Mikey Madsen won the BAFTA award just this past Sunday, so I could see that.
And she has the momentum.
Would love Cynthia Erivo.
I would too.
To win.
Yep.
I thought she was absolutely spectacular in here. Yep. I thought the voice work, both the singing and the just regular voice work, was absolutely spot on. I think that she played the comedy where it made sense to play the comedy. And also just really, I mean, she's so good at just being able to pull those heartstrings and pull so many emotional layers out of a moment. And particularly in the confrontation scene between her and Michelle Yeoh's. Michelle Yeoh isn't the headmistress of the school, but she's sort of like one of the great teachers of the magic at the school. Right. So her confrontation with Michelle Yeoh and the wizard, I think, was very, the journey to going from, oh, I'm finally meeting the wizard, this is amazing, to, oh my gosh, the wizard's wrong and what he's doing is bad. Right. I think in the wrong hands could have been very blah.
I think
and she carried it.
I think there's some politics in there too, because it's like, oh, look at how bright and shiny this is when we should respect it and love it. And then it reveals its real face and everybody should recoil in disgust. So I felt, at least I put that in there. I don't know if the filmmakers had it in there, but I saw the parallel with, somebody we thought was our great leader that turned out to be the opposite of that, a threat.
Yeah.
But that last number is a great ending
to
the first act. And I thought, how are they ever going to make that more dramatic? And of course, they did it visually in many ways, but it was outstanding.
It was.
Really outstanding.
They let that song sing.
Yep.
If they didn't let Popular, they kept interrupting and stopping with my gosh, I'm blanking on the name of it.
The name of the song?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the name.
Oh my gosh.
I will look it up while you speak.
I was also, and I said this after I saw it to you. I said this to you. I think I said this to you, Jim. Or maybe I thought it. That how jealous I am of all of those teen gay boys who get to meet Jonathan Bailey in this way. Like, obviously, you know, we've been following Jonathan Bailey's career for a number of years now, and he was absolutely spectacular in Fellow Travelers. Thank you. You're showing me the Defying Gravity. They definitely let that song fly at the end of Act One.
Another outstanding number was in The Library, which I don't remember that song being in the musical. You know, I saw it in previews, so maybe it was, but wow, that number in the film, the choreography, not just Jonathan, but the whole company was incredible, to where I really would see the movie again to see that scene, that one scene.
And who made that scene work? Oh, Jonathan Bailey.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So I don't know. For right now, what am I going to say? I'm going to say that I'm giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I'm giving it the half because Jonathan Bailey pulled it up there for me and Cynthia Erivo.
Yep.
I'm starting at a 3 out of 5 because I don't know what's going to happen in the second one.
Right.
And so if the second one doesn't stick the landing, then I'm going to feel justified in my 3 out of 5. But if it does, then I might retroactively go in here and up my review to 4 out of 5.
I'll draw the parallel to Dune, which is another part 1, part 2. Part 1 was so disappointing that I didn't want to see part 2.
My 2 big thumbs down.
Whereas this film, Wicked, I thought, okay, well, I'll see the second one. You know, you've at least interested me enough to give you that. I'll come and see the second one.
Yeah, I'm totally gonna go see it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you're a lover of The Wizard of Oz.
Oh my gosh.
Full disclosure, that was something you have.
So this was really fun. This is really fun to see. Yeah. Well, okay. Those are our first 2 that we're going to talk about, the Oscars leading up to the ceremony on March 2nd. So we'll be back here over the next few Fridays giving more of our brutally honest Oscar evaluations. Thanks everyone for listening and or watching today. Have a great weekend. We will see you back here on Monday. Stay tuned for the Matt McNeil Show, and after that for Native Roots Radio and the LGBTQ Block Saturday afternoon. Bye everyone.